his camera. That, I was hoping would come across here, but I don't know what people are seeing.
So are the people who are on the go-to webinar, are you seeing the agenda?
Yes, I
Okay.
see the agenda,
Split screen.
and for your webcam, I also see the podium with the City of Batavia logo.
Okay.
Okay,
So if he's seeing that camera.
that camera. Okay, so then,
If you can you switch to another camera? Well, no, I just want to try a different camera. Maybe get Alan Wolfen.
use me, I'm a good guinea pig.
Did the camera view change for them? Well, they were seeing the front of the podium.
I saw Howard, somebody's hand.
Yeah, camera hasn't changed yet.
Howard, he just saw your hand, so it's working.
What,
All right,
you guys-
there's the agenda.
He's getting the output from whatever camera he picks, goes on to YouTube. I'm watching it right here.
Okay, so you guys see the different cameras?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Okay.
Wow, it's working. I didn't doubt
That's
that.
awesome.
Now, will you be able to toggle that over to whoever's speaking when they speak so that we can see
Yes.
them up there?
Yes, the way that I do that is, and I'll have the mouse over there, is that I go to webcams and I can first show all webcams, and then typically what I do is view who's talking.
Okay.
So then people at home get this, a similar.
Anthony, can you speak, please?
Yes. Can you hear me clearly?
And that works good.
Sure can. Thank you very much.
Because I think that's like the important thing that we wanted to try to make this work for, was so that it was truly whoever's speaking, you can see them.
There we go. Okay, I think we're good to go.
Ready to start the broadcast?
Yes, please.
All right, beginning the broadcast right now.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
And we have 7 o'clock. I'll call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. First item on the agenda tonight is roll call.
Miller? Miller? Rosato?
Here.
Beck? Here. Knopf?
Here.
Chancet? Chancet? Barron? Here. Wolf?
Here.
O'Brien? O'Brien? Callahan?
Here.
Meitzler? Meitzler? Malay? Malay? Ewer? Ewer? Cerrone? And McFadden?
Here.
McFadden? Okay, we have 8.
So we do
Makes a
have a
quorum.
quorum. Do we have 8?
I counted 7.
I counted 7.
Wait,
6 here and 1 on the phone.
We have 6 here and then Drew on the phone.
Barron, Wolf, Callahan. Why is mine saying 8? And McFadden.
We have Elliot Meitzler under attendees right now.
Elliot, can you unmute and let us know you're here?
I have 8.
I think we have to move them over to panelist.
I believe Anthony's trying to make him
Oh,
a
panelist? Okay.
panelist.
Yeah, let me make him let me try and make Elliot a panelist here.
Bear with us as we get this
Yes.
new setup.
We do.
So
Unless
Anthony's
I
added a help,
tallied them wrong.
half a help desktop
Rosato,
to his
Beck,
job duty.
Knopf, Barron, Wolf. Oh, I don't. O'Brien.
O'Brien is not
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
but
the one.
but when we get Meitzler, we'll have it.
Okay.
Let's see.
So as soon as we get Elliot to chime in, then we'll move forward.
Let's see here.
Well, we're we're waiting for that, I'll remind everybody and anybody from the audience that comes up to use the center mic in the room, make sure that you can hear yourself through the microphone so that the speakers, so everything gets picked up and everybody can hear you.
I'm not seeing Elliot as an attendee.
Well, then it might be a really short meeting.
Elliot Meisler is a panelist already.
Has he checked in?
Is he
he
checked in under
online?
attendees?
It says attendee can't be unmuted until they enter their PN. He needs to enter a PN number, but he is showing up as an attendee. Okay, what's this
I
here?
don't think so. I mean, how many
Okay, now
attendees do
he's
you
gone.
have?
He's gone now from attendees.
Okay,
So he's going over to panelist, hopefully?
Let's look and see if he's in. Let's see.
Says Elliot has arrived.
all right.
Elliot is back on.
Are
Can you hear us, Elliot?
Audio only.
Is he a panelist,
Drew?
or is he an attendee list?
He's in the attendee list right now, but he is marked as a panelist.
So
on the
if you
page.
click on his name and use the
Mhm.
arrow, you can make him a panelist.
Elliot is here. I mean, he messaged me that
Right, but we have,
he is there.
right.
Let me see if we can add him like this.
This is Mark. Can you guys hear me?
There's-
Yes.
Hey, Mark is here. Okay, we get it.
Anthony, did you?
Hi, Mark. Are you on the web or are you on the phone?
I'm on the phone. I may have to jump off if I get a call from a doctor.
Okay.
I just sent Elliot another invitation as a panelist.
Okay, we just need you, Mark, to be here as number 8, so we have a quorum. So we can legally start the meeting. And then whenever
Okay.
Elliot comes in, he'll chime in and we'll let you know that that's the time you can mark him down when he became part of the meeting. Okay, we will move on then to item number 3, to approve minutes for August 4th, September 1st, September 15th, and September 22nd of 2020. Does anybody have any notes, comments, changes? Now that I figured out how to open them up all separately, they are all there on the web. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Knopp,
Second.
second by Beck. Roll call, please. And let the record reflect that Alderman Miller checked in at 7:06.
We're doing a vote on the minutes right now. Okay. Knopf,
Aye.
Chanzit, absent. Barron? Aye. Wolf,
Aye.
O'Brien, absent. Callahan,
Aye.
Meitzler? Meitzler? Absent. Malay? Absent. Ewer?
Aye.
Saron? Absent. McFadden?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Rosado?
Aye.
And Beck? Aye. Motion carried.
Okay. We will then move on to item number 4, items to be removed, added, or changed. Do you have anything tonight, Laura?
I don't know of any.
Okay. And we'll go right into item number 5, which is matters from the public for items that are not on the agenda. Anybody here for anything not on the agenda? Okay. We will head right in then to item number 6, which is ordinance 20-58, annexing and zoning 1117 North Washington Avenue to the city of Batavia. Alderman Callahan?
Thank you. This is part of the ongoing incorporation through the community. This is to annex the property at 1117 North Washington, which is a 5-acre property along the Fox River Trail within the city limits. Drew, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Am I coming through okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, so as you mentioned, this is a ordinance that would annex and zone the property at 1117 North Washington. This is the 5-acre property that was last occupied by the Riverview Banquets. They are currently without a banquet tenant at this property, but it is the goal of the property owner to bring back a banquet facility use in the future. The proposed zoning classification would allow that under the city's zoning designation. So with some recent or semi-recent actions in December and February, these properties all became solely surrounded by the city limits. And so we did initiate a conversation with the owners about annexing the property. Due to the nature of the organizational structure, there was not a consensus on annexing or signing an annexation petition. So the city did initiate an involuntary annexation application. At the Plan Commission public hearing, the Plan Commission did consider a proposed zoning classification, and that would be the community commercial zoning district. The applicant or a member of the Columbian Club did express their reservations about annexation, namely whether they would be required to connect to all utilities in the future. They are currently only on city water, so they were concerned about costs of connecting all other utilities. We did note that at the hearing that the practice has been to date that only the only connections of utilities are only required if they have some sort of issue with the utility. There's not a requirement to connect upon annexation currently. So the commission did discuss the appropriateness of the community commercial district. They did find that that was the most appropriate district, and that the question of whether annexation of the property should happen is a matter for the city council. So they did recommend a community commercial classification that is included in the ordinance tonight. So the impacts would be that this would allow or annex the property, and it would allow it to be used in the future for banquet use. It would remove an unincorporated island and eliminate some jurisdictional issues. The property owner would have to apply for city licensing for liquor and other city regulations in the future. And so those are some of the impacts identified, and staff is recommending approval of the ordinance as presented, consistent with the Plan Commission recommendation.
Thank you, Drew. As has gone in the past, this one is on city water currently, but the septic, that's already there. Do we know how old that is?
That I do not know. I'm assuming it probably, it would be under a county permit, but I'm not sure what the status of when it was last either improved or when it was installed.
Okay, because I know some that have been annexed have recently replaced the items, and we would not force them to do that as in the past.
Right.
It would just, as it
Correct.
would fail, then it would come on, because I believe the costs are about the same.
Yes,
anyone have any-
there would be some added costs in this situation because of the location of the structure. There probably would be the need for some sort of either mechanical septic or lift station or something like that. So this might be a little bit different situation than others we've encountered where there's the sewer right there.
Anyone have any questions? Is anyone from the public here to speak about that? Please come up and state your name.
Joseph Sauber. I'm with the Columbian Club. We're the owners of the property that's being discussed right now. Just a few questions. So the zoning wouldn't change. The banquet hall would still be allowed. That's what was said, correct?
Yes.
And that, what would it take to change that? You don't want to change it. What if you guys wanted to change it? What would it take to change that?
Drew, can you hear that?
Yes. So if the city were ever to propose a different zoning district, or if the city was ever to propose a different zoning district, it would require a public hearing in front of the Plan Commission and City Council action. You as property owner would receive notification along with all properties within 500 feet. So there would be a public hearing process if the city were ever to contemplate a change from a zoning classification that other than what we're considering right now, which is the CC Community Commercial District. You as the property owner would also have the ability, if you ever wanted to change the zoning, you can also apply yourselves. But if it was a city initiated action, like you're asking, that would require a public hearing, which you would receive notice for, along with other property owners.
You also, we're currently a banquet hall. We also have like Knights of Columbus meetings there and all that stuff. None of that would change then, correct? There'd be no
Correct.
change to our ability to use it as we're currently using it.
Correct.
You said we're going to have to become city licensed, with liquor being the obvious one. Is there a city tax we would then also pay on the liquor sales?
Mr. Mayor, that would qualify under the city tax for liquor, correct?
I mean, it would be a city sales tax, anything you sell.
Sure.
Including the food. So there would be those sales tax. You said you weren't going to require us to join the city sewer and water, or excuse me, sewer. We are on your water. And how long of a guarantee do we have of that? Someone said until the septic system fails.
Right. What has happened up to this point is any parcels that have come into the city that have had their own septic system, some had just replaced it. I know one of the recent ones, they had replaced it within the last year. So the concern was, well, why would I incur all of that cost? What we have done to date is to allow the septic system to remain, and then when that failed, it is our understanding that the county will not reissue any new septic private systems on that property or any of the ones that get annexed into the city. So at that point, you would come on to the city sewer system.
You just said the county wouldn't allow it. Do you mean the city or do you mean the county?
The county won't permit, because the county is the one that has the overriding authority on a septic system. They won't permit repair or replacement if you are annexed into a city or are able to connect to a system.
We don't want to the annexation, I take, is a done deal, right? I mean, you're going to do it whether we object or not. Is that correct? That's the way I was gathering.
I believe we wanted to annex this for years, and I think it's finally getting done.
What's the upside to the city of annexing?
That if you were to sell the land, we have control over what gets built on there. If we don't, somebody can come and buy the land and build what they want on it, because they go to the county for a permit instead of to the city for a permit.
All right. If we had to go to the city sewer, who pays for that?
Drew,
You would pay for the attachment to it.
So if our system fails,
Right.
you say we have to attach, we have no other choice. There's nothing.
Right, because the county wouldn't permit you to repair or replace your system.
County issues permits for the septic.
All right, and the city would not assist in that in any way? I'm gonna tell you, that would like shut the facility down, we believe, because we've looked at this before, and we do need a lift station, because we're so low, but a lift station's at least $50,000, if not $70,000, $80,000. And that's prohibitive to our nonprofit budget. And so we're taking the risk if you bring us in there. If our septic system fails, we got big issues.
Yeah, I don't know where, because I don't have the answer, where the nearest attachment point would be and how we would get there, how we would be able to get there.
My understanding, it runs along Washington. Could be wrong, but that's my understanding. We're down at the bottom.
Right, I know exactly where you are.
Right. So that would require-
Gary, do you want to chime in on this? I mean, do we have sewer availability down at that lower elevation further south, or?
we have a sewer that serves the trailer park just to the south. Whether that sewer has capacity, that part of the equation, I don't know.
Right,
And that sewer runs right down River Street. So, I mean, there isn't just the sewer along Washington. There is a sewer along River Street that heads north, up River Street, and goes all the way to the trailer park there. That would be the logical sewer that gets extended up north.
Right. Yeah, I guess, I don't know that we would have an answer for what all that would entail. My feeling would be that if, somewhere in the future, this property gets redeveloped, that would be part of the deal for redeveloping it.
There's certainly no plans in the future to redevelop or to sell the property or anything of that nature. If the city's concern is that we would sell to a third party and you would lose your control, is there some type of agreement short of an annexation we could enter into with the city that would give you a right of approval of future use for sale?
So I think I can speak to a little bit of the philosophy of why the city pursues annexation of what we call those donut holes, is because they are contiguous to, on all sides to the city, that there are services that are provided. We don't, pick up the snowplow and put it down, when we get past the property. There are benefits to being located there. Should there an emergency arise, it's going to be the Batavia Police Department that is going to be the one who shows up first. And so I think that has been part of the philosophy about why we want to encourage the annexation of those types of properties within our borders.
Along with that,
If
though-
I may also, this is Scott here, going back a little bit in history on this property, before we allowed them to connect to water, we were negotiating an annexation for this property. And for one reason or another, it never got completed. So the intention was for this to be annexed back when we connected to the water. And they elected, for whatever reason, we did not follow through on the annexation. So in some of these annexations, that was typical, that we went ahead and allowed them to connect, but we didn't follow through the annexation petitions. So that's what happened here also.
No, but what happened was we had to put in a lift station as part of the annexation, and that was not started because it was a cost prohibitive expense. And that's what we fear in the future is that huge expense.
And that's what I was going to say is, that's a very valid point, where we do understand what we've been trying to do is close up all of the donut holes in town, anything that's within the city limits, because there's a lot of efficiencies that are gained by that. But also along with that, the concerns that involuntary annexations have had with mostly residential parcels have been not to kill them with incurring a great amount of cost. And I know that we've come to certain other agreements with different property owners about what can and can't be done. We've done it with different side, there was the parcel out off of Main Street, West Main,
Right.
that they needed to continue some,
Evergreen?
yes, where they needed to continue some of the things that they were doing on their properties that would no longer be allowed in the city limits. So is there a way, the cost for an organization such as this would be monumental. How do we work with our new neighbors in figuring out a solution as to what we would do? The tying in to the sewer system for that, could we come to an agreement that since the amount is so high, that if it did fail, that we could possibly support an application to re-put in a new septic system until such time as a lift station could go in?
I think that would be great
Marty,
if
I
we
think in
could,
that
but I think the
circumstance-
county
I'm
is
sorry,
the
that
limitation.
circumstance,
I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, I think in that circumstance, the distance for this facility from the nearest sewer may be such that it's larger than where the county would compel them to connect to city utilities, because usually it's anything over 200 feet is when they say you can have a septic. And we have allowed people to put in septics. That new house on North Batavia Avenue is too far away from a sewer system. So we have allowed that. If there's no practical way to connect, then we have allowed them to reuse a septic system.
So how did we write that into the annexation for them?
Well, that one was already annexed into the city, and we just didn't have anything in there. We didn't have anything in particular in writing or anything for that. The county actually regulation says they will allow a septic as long as it's more than 200 feet away from a municipal sewer system.
And how far is it for this property?
I want to say the building itself is more than 200 feet from a sewer right now.
At least 25.
Right.
I'm not sure how.
Yeah, and I think if that were to be written in there, then that would be the way that would be handled, and the only other thing I could think of would be to have it in there that if the property is sold, and redeveloped at the time of redevelopment, then it would have to be.
And those are entirely new.
Right, that's a completely
Those are
different
new
set of
facts that-
situation.
Right, that's, right. Well, and if they were wanting to build something, there would be, that
They would want
That
that.
would-
needed to tie in,
Yeah.
then the cost for that.
Right.
But for them to come into the city and have that looming future cost over their organization would be kind of devastating. If it's 2020, it probably would fail tomorrow. It's the way things go. So I would like to support some sort of consideration for that we allow they're on the water, the septic is at least good for the time being, and it would alleviate some of their concern that while they own the property. Hello?
Oh, my goodness, am I finally able to get audio through? Thank you.
Is
Yes.
that Elliot?
Elliot's on.
Yes, I'll go on mute. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
17th try.
Alderman Meitzler is now part of the proceeding. The way I look at this in here, and I see that, it says right in the memo that the property would be able to connect to additional city utilities when needed. I want to find where that line is in the actual ordinance, so that way we can either add to or change something there, so that way.
Under impacts on page 2.
And that way we make sure that we're covering that, so on page 2, in the actual ordinance?
Under the memo that Drew wrote.
No, I'm talking in the ordinance itself.
Oh.
Because that's what we're gonna pass, and that'll be the legal document that has to have something with teeth. The memo really won't hold up.
Well, we could direct staff to get that and put that actual wording in before
Right.
city council.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
We can certainly do that, yes.
Scott, can I ask you a question? Scott?
Sure.
Perry? Jeff Shelkey. I know the gentleman that owns the property to the north of this has been kicking the tire with us about doing something with his property. Can you give me some status of where that's at? Is he thinking he's gonna sell that, or is he wanting to zone it? What are we doing with that big piece that goes almost up to the bridge there from Columbia Park?
Yeah, we've heard no proposals or anything from them. We did annex that property, I think it was last year, as part of our annexation efforts. We did put it in a zoning district that was comparable to our comprehensive plan, which was, I think, an R4 district. But they have not approached us, and they have not talked to us about any actual development plans for that property.
Well, R4 would allow him to have some significant amount of residential density on that particular piece of property, would it not, then?
Yes, it would.
Now, just for the education of the council, that piece of property that's right north of these folks may be one of the oldest pieces of property in the city of Batavia that's been owned by the same family for well over 100 years. And the gentleman that is the heir to it, who I knew when I was a little kid, and he was a little kid, He lives up, I believe, is he in Elgin, Scott? Is that where, I think his first name is
Yes,
Ralph?
that's correct.
Where Ralph lives in
Ralph,
Elgin?
Ralph Ullman.
Ullman, yeah. The family's owned it for well over 100 years, and a conversation I had with him many years ago was he was just waiting for the opportunity to sell that and,
Well, then I
cash
think
out on it.
if that gets developed, then that becomes the opportunity
That's what I'm
to
thinking,
get a
that
sewer through there, and then they can tie
Probably
into
need
it.
to hook onto some
through their
sewer through us
property.
and go right through them, so they'd be in an enviable position to
Mhm.
probably get a free.
That would probably help them to be able to tie in.
Could work out.
Right. A long time in the future.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think,
Could be next month, right?
Yeah, this guy, I think, is wanting to sell, I guess, my.
Scott,
He's been thinning things out there.
Scott,
It's thinned out there.
Yes,
this is Alan. If we could just get in probably one line that says that they would not be required to attach to the city utilities other than what they're already attached to. There wouldn't be a requirement for that. I don't know how you want to word that.
yeah, we could do that.
I think that would be
Yeah, we'll
what we
wordsmith
would like
something
to
that will
have in
basically
there
say that
to
they're
protect you.
not, as long as their use, they're not compelled to, connect to city utility.
Right,
Right.
and,
Include electric.
right.
Okay.
You know, and the only way I could see that you'd ever have to be compelled to that is if ComEd pulled the lines along the river, because that's probably where you're hooked into ComEd.
We have a special exemption from the state on taxes as a fraternal organization. I think the VFWs and Knights of Columbus and such organizations all have this. We pay much less than the private world.
Mhm.
That would remain upon annexation. Again, that would be.
I would believe so. That would be an answer that would have to come probably from the tax assessor
Yeah.
to know exactly what it would be. The things that I know that will change from what I have read and what's happened in the past is because you're on the fire protection district now, that would go away and you'd just be under the city, which provides the fire protection service. When you're outside the city but within our district, you pay a different fee. And that just becomes part of your city taxes after that. And I think it ends up being marginally more. It might be just a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, Scott,
Yeah, and in the
do you know?
circumstance, they have a pretty significant tax exemption for their
Mhm.
property, so they are really not paying much in property taxes at all. I can't remember what the number is, but it's under $1,000, I think,
Okay.
But
total
But
taxes.
for
Alan,
his
Tony,
clarity, that the tax rate does not change going from unincorporated to city, correct?
No, the tax rate would change because they would drop the fire district and then they would gain the city. But, their rate, because they're paying such a low rate based on the assessor, I mean, the assessment difference would probably be maybe pennies or maybe $1, to be honest with you.
Sure, sorry, I
There
didn't
would be
mean
no
the,
significant impact.
It's not the assessed value. We still have a very high assessed value.
Correct.
There's some state
Right.
law that allows us to pay significantly less, like it is. And I don't.
Right, the exemption that you have as a fraternal organization or whatever it's called, I'm
Right.
sure would make the rate less.
And it would imply, as far as you guys know, that the city would pay.
that's the part that, yes, that's the part that remains the same. The only difference is the taxes that you're paying to the fire protection, that comes off your tax bill, but the cost for those, the city portion would go up a little bit because that's rolled into, we provide our own fire protection. So that would be the only difference, not your change in fraternal organization.
Can that number be quantified to us before?
That's gonna have to be an answer from, I would say, from either the tax assessor's office or from the county. Your status as an entity is not going to change because you're annexed into the city. That's not gonna change. So whatever the discount or rebate or whatever you got before would still apply on the city side of it.
Right, the property is considered mostly exempt under the way the assessor does it, so that's not gonna change.
Right.
The only thing they really get assessed any taxes on are the things that are not tax exempt, so the banquet hall itself, they will assess a level of tax on that. because that's a non-tax exempt activity. So they will assess that based on the actual, however the assessor divides that up, but that won't change by virtue of the annexation at all. That'll stay the same.
My understanding is it's zoned two different ways. One's like farmland, one's the business part of it. So that would remain, is what you're saying?
I believe that's what Scott said.
Yes, because it's based on the use of the property and not the zoning of the property.
The other question that I have is, we understand now if we're annexed part of the city, we're gonna have any issues at all with a liquor license? We need to know that.
Well, you're gonna have to apply for a liquor license. You'll have to meet the criteria for it.
With Kane County, right?
Mhm.
I'm assuming that's not gonna be any issue with the city.
I don't,
That would cause.
and I don't think we would deny you one. I mean, as long as you meet all the requirements, the
Right.
background checks come
The
in fine
background
and everything
checks,
else, just like
yeah.
we would with the county, we would approve one.
And if you have one with the state, Mr. Mayor, I don't know of any that the state issue a liquor license and then,
Whether it's the county or the cities.
right.
So the state requires the city's license in order to apply for the state's license.
Honestly, so I get why the city wants to do it, but as the owners of the property, there's no upside for us, other than more expense. And we're a fraternal order and we're a charitable organization. So any incremental expense that hits is very impactful to what we do for the community. So, if we had a vote, we'd rather just stay how we are and let's leave it alone. But if not, if we could get some consideration as to, hey, we'll play along as long as we can keep our expenses, we gotta have that. I mean.
Well, I think our city license, as far as the cost, has got to be about what the county license is. I mean, I'd have to check exactly to see what they are, but you're not going to have three. You're going to have whichever entity, whether you're in the county or whether you're in the city, you're still going to have the license.
I get it, no, I'm not trying to get out of the license. It's just, I know what we've got with the county.
Mhm.
For that, I don't know what it is with the city. And the variable of the city that may not grant it provides us a problem. And in effect, it shuts it down.
And Scott, we could get that for them, correct?
So I mean, it's all
Get-
good for the city. It's not necessarily good for the property owners and what we do in the community.
True, but as I stated, the reason why we try to do that is because there is an impact on city services
Yeah.
that occurs, but we do want to be sensitive to the fact that you're a hybrid, you've got the business aspect of it, but you are also, a not-for-profit. So we definitely want to be sensitive to those issues and, welcome you as a part of the city of Batavia. So we will work with you on those issues. Scott he has said that he is going to be getting you the number of what the incremental cost will be. I hope that is something that is, is small enough that it isn't an impact to you,
So
but
what's,
this is only the first meeting of this. This will still have
Yeah,
to
this
come
is-
back to the city council for final approval, and I
When-
hope
when
that
is
you'll, the next city council meeting is on, the 19th.
let's kick this out to like 2023.
Well, let's have a discussion about it on the 19th, the 19th of October.
Of October.
Yes. Yes.
And I think, Scott, can we make sure that we get the numbers to show what the difference is between a county liquor license and a city liquor license? Just so we know that, so that,
Sure, we can do that.
we can speak realistically with that. And can you also figure out or touch base with the assessor's office or whatever we need to see what, if any, changes that makes to their status, which I doubt it will, and then what the difference would be when they drop the fire protection district and add the city tax to it. And that's gonna be an answer I
Yeah,
think the
well,
assessor
definitely.
will
We
have
can
to come
get
up with.
Thank you for asking for that, because I would feel more comfortable with
Right.
voting for it, knowing what those impacts are.
Right.
But with not knowing what those impacts are.
Because if it's
sitting here
$10, I think we can all agree that's okay. If it's $1,000, then maybe we have to have another discussion about this before we pass something like that.
Alderman Wolf, this is Chief Yule.
Hello? Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Tony
This is Chief
Malay
Yule.
here, can you hear?
Oh, sorry.
Tony Malay, just for the record.
Okay.
We heard him, and he is now participating in the meeting. And Chief Ewell, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just wondering if they knew what kind of classification they have at the county level, because I have the structure up on my computer here right now. I believe they probably have a Class C, and if that's the case, that's a $2,500 county license, and I believe ours is $1,500.
I don't know the classification, I don't have it, but I'll certainly look.
See, and that's something that, too, if that's true, we just save you $1,000 by annexing you. Which this could be a really good thing to come here tonight and get this figured out. Right. And
Alan,
again,
Tony
we
Malay
need to
here.
have reality, and we need to speak with truth from reality. So we need to know what your liquor license classification is, and then get both city and county to compare them.
Well, just to throw another monkey wrench into it, didn't we waive liquor licenses for this year?
We waived renewals,
Renewal.
but we are charging for new liquor
Okay.
licenses.
We are Knights of Columbus Hall, and
Mhm.
with that, we're not like a banquet hall.
Right.
Mhm.
No, I want to, that's it, thank you, and I really want to thank you for making us at the top of the agenda.
Okay. We're gonna fly through this one, so thank you for coming down, and we'll get all those answers before we make a decision on it.
Alan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Tony.
Tony Malay here.
You got your
Thank
video
you.
on, so you
Sorry,
can pop?
and it's,
Are you on the webinar, or are you
hear me
on
now?
phone?
I'm on the webinar.
Okay.
Well, just so we're
on my
we're
iPad.
clear, we're still going to take a vote for tonight at the committee level. We're going to take a vote at the committee level so that it would go to council. So I will recommend approval of ordinance 20-58 an ordinance annexing and zoning 1117 North Washington Avenue to the city of Batavia, with the items discussed to be added to the final resolution at city council.
Second. Motion by Callahan, second by Knopp.
Roll call?
Callahan?
Aye.
Meixler?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Sabrone, absent. McFadden?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Rosato?
Aye.
Beck? Aye. Knopf?
Aye.
Transit, absent. Barron?
Aye.
And Wolf?
Aye.
And O'Brien, absent. 11-0.
Okay.
So thank you. We will discuss this coming Monday.
Monday night, 7:30
7:30.
Monday night.
All right,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 7 is ordinance 20-25, amending the City of Batavia zoning code regarding bed and breakfast homes. Alderman Callahan.
Thank you. So this is a continuation of, we discussed this at our September 15th meeting, and there were several changes to be made, and those changes will be discussed. Joel, are you on? Or is Drew going to take this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
No,
Drew.
I have this. Yes, as you started to say on September 15th, the COW wanted changes to the regulations addressing driveways and driveway paving, parking in garages, and the frequency for cleaning rooms and sheets. Also to address overnight parking permits. And staff has amended both ordinances to remove the requirement for paved driveways, to remove the specifications for garage parking, and that gets rid of all of the geometric requirements. And that's on the zoning end. Also on the zoning end, we put in a note that an overnight parking permit cannot be issued for bed and breakfast homes. And that's for ordinance 20-25. On the licensing side, which is City Code Title 3, and that is in ordinance 2026, we amended the language to remove or to specify that rooms are cleaned and sheets are changed once per rental period. We also added language to Title 3 to prohibit overnight parking. So we have two places in our code where we specify no overnight parking permits for bed and breakfast homes. As I mentioned, all of these changes are in the revised ordinances in front of you this evening, and staff recommends approval of both ordinances as presented.
Thank you, Joel. As Joel described, and as I'm sure everyone has read, the changes that were made were what were discussed at the September 15th meeting. Has anybody thought about any different things, anything else they want to add to this? Anyone on the phone? Abby?
Mark, I don't have anything. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything I want to add or change. I did just want to thank staff for taking the changes, taking the recommendations from us and making those changes. I'm happy with the way it's written now.
Abby?
I am too. I think it captured everything we talked about, but the question that I have, and maybe it is just me spinning around in this discussion for so long that I can't remember. So now the memo explicitly says that this is for bed and breakfasts, not for home share. So is the Airbnb and VRBOs going to be a separate ordinance? Because I think all of these things now capture what was going to be a part of the Airbnb discussion, but now it's exclusively to B&Bs, and so that's where I was confused. Are we going to have a separate set of ordinances for home share, or is this going to cover it all?
Well, I can address that. I want to clarify that these regulations address bed and breakfast homes and bed and breakfast establishments. They apply to any kind of rental, whether it be an individual homeowner just doing it by himself or herself, or doing it through an online platform. When we say home share, we are referring to a situation where the homeowners and their family that live in the house, maybe they're away for a weekend or a week, and they want to make their entire home available for another party to come in and use during that short period of time. That would be what we are considering home share. And again, that can be done through any kind of bed and breakfast listing. It can be done through an online platform. It can be done by an individual homeowner. So the current regulations prohibit somebody from renting his or her entire house, except for situations where the same owner owns both units in a duplex. If that is the case, and the owner can remain on the premises and have his or her family reside in one unit in the duplex, but then the other unit in the duplex may be rented in its entirety. That's the only exception for the whole home rental that the current proposed regulations have. We have never allowed a whole home to be rented for a short period of time.
But a home share would allow it? Or, so are we saying we're not?
Well, we are,
Sounds like it's just.
I'm assuming that when we say home share, we mean a situation where a single family residence, the family is gone for a weekend or a week, whatever the case may be, less than a month, and they want to then make their home available for more people, for other people, another party to occupy in its entirety. That would be home sharing. And that we have not covered in these regulations. We don't allow that now. We are not proposing to allow that at this time, other than that duplex scenario that I explained. If the council wants to explore the opportunity of allowing, for example, a single-family homeowner to be away for a weekend or a night or a week and then make the whole home available, we can do that. But these regulations only address rooms except for the duplex scenario.
So this will prohibit, I know of at least one Airbnb in Batavia that is a whole home situation. So this would essentially remove that from that family's.
Well, it
If
doesn't.
it's shorter than a month.
It doesn't remove it doesn't remove anything. We don't allow it now, Yeah, it's not allowed right now. and we're not proposing to allow it with the current
Right.
regulations.
So
So
the
if
one
that
that
is-
I know of does months at a time rental.
A month at a time would
Anything
not
over
apply.
30 days is considered a lease.
Right.
So what our suggestion here is that the regulations that are in front of you are amending the existing regulations regarding bed and breakfast. We had started the enforcement process, just to remind everybody of what happened, where we got to this point. We had existing bed and breakfast regulations. We brought this in front of the committee. The committee said, let's go ahead and regulate these. We did. We had complaints, and then we brought it back for additional discussion and changes to the regulations. So that what's in front of you is now the regulations that we changed a couple times now that would address the bed and breakfast ordinance as it stands today. If you're looking to allow for additional home share ordinances that would allow for rental of homes while people are not occupied, we can address that via a separate ordinance that we would have to go back and work, to develop as part of that change. But this only addresses the bed and breakfast type situations.
Any other questions? Did that answer, Abby?
Yeah, I think the one that we had used must have switched to a long-term.
Right. Yep. Anybody on the phone? Hearing nothing, and nobody's in the audience?
Let me ask you a question. How many bed and breakfasts do we have in Batavia?
Scott?
They vary, from day to day and week to week, but, we've had, when we first started discussing this, we had like one. And then as things came into vogue, we had 6, and, we've had upwards of 25 at any given time. So it varies, it goes up and down.
Thank you, Scott.
I move that we approve to City Council Ordinance 20-25, amendments to the text of the zoning code regarding regulation of bed and breakfast homes.
Second?
Motion by Callahan, second by Knopp. Roll call.
Callahan?
Aye.
Meitzler?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Saron, absent. McFadden?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Rosato?
Aye.
Beck?
Aye.
Knopf?
Aye.
Chanzit, absent. Barron?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
And O'Brien, absent. 11-0. Motion carried.
Thank you. I move that we approve Ordinance 20-26, amendments to the City Code Title III regarding regulation of bed and breakfast establishments.
Second?
Motion by Callahan, second by Knopp. All in favor?
Roll call?
Roll call, sorry.
Callahan?
Aye.
Meitzler?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Saron, absent. McFadden?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Rosato?
Aye.
Beck? Knopf?
Aye.
Chanzit, absent. Barron?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
And O'Brien, absent. 11-0. Motion carried.
Okay, thank you.
I believe those can go on consent.
Yeah. We should have the first, well, yeah, 25 and 26 should go on consent, but 2058 should be on the regular agenda.
Yes.
Okay. All right, now we'll move into the city services portion with Resolution 20-119-R, authorizing execution of the local public agency agreement for federal participation with Idot for Prairie Street and Wilson Street intersection improvements. This goes back to, when was that, May this year, through a resolution that we approved a draft agreement to perform engineering services for Prairie and Wilson Street project. IDOT has reviewed that draft and found it to be acceptable for local execution. This will be partially federally funded, and IDOT requires that we submit an executed local public agency agreement for federal participation. So that is just another step in spending a lot of tax money on another intersection and another construction project, and
But hardly it's a federal grant.
right, yeah. It's still tax money.
I know. I'm just saying.
It's just more than just our tax money.
If we don't use it, somebody
Right,
else.
right, and I think
will,
that it's a
and
good
then
thing
we'll
that
pay the whole
we move forward with this and, you know, get this next step done. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I believe that money became available from pulling it from another
Right.
entity, isn't that correct? They
Another
didn't
city
use
that
it?
wasn't ready to do something.
Yeah.
So that's where it became available, and
Yep.
we've wanted to do something with this, just haven't been able to afford it. Now we can afford to do it. So I think it's a good thing to get done. That being said, I will make the motion to recommend to council resolution 20-119-R.
Second?
Motion by Wolf, second by Barron. Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
O'Brien, absent. Callahan,
Aye.
Meitzler,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron, absent. McFadden,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Zato,
Aye.
Beck. Aye. Knopf,
Aye.
Chanzit, absent, and Barron. Aye. Motion carried 11-0.
Thank you. Since Alderman Chanzit is not here, I'll proceed with Resolution 20-116-R, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city administrator to execute an intergovernmental agreement authorizing participation in the King County Coronavirus Relief Fund COVID-19 reimbursement program, and authorizing the city finance director to sign and submit documentation in support of CARES Act funding. That's a lot.
It is a lot. It's just the next step in the process for the city to be eligible to receive the coronavirus aid funding that came through the King County and is being distributed to municipalities. We've submitted our application. It's on file and under review, and we would need to execute this intergovernmental agreement, which provides indemnification for the Kane County, because we are now a sub-grantee, and so they want assurances that we will take responsibility for correctly applying any funding that we receive.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay. I just want to say that I know that this has been a monumental task for a lot of departments in the city to be able to get all this information together. I know it's been a huge thing. Peggy's here tonight so we can
Yes.
actually say thank you for all the time, additional time spent on all of this year. But I'm glad that, again, we're getting this next step done and get everything in, get our money, get it applied the way it's supposed to be, and
Right.
be all approved. Okay, with that, I will make the motion that we recommend to council resolution 20-116-R.
Second.
Motion by Wolf, second by Callahan. Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
O'Brien, absent. Callahan,
Aye.
Meitzler,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron, absent. McFadden,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Knopf,
Aye.
Transit absent, and Barron.
Aye.
Motion carried 11-0.
Okay, thank you. Now, Alderman O'Brien is not here, so I'll take this one too. Resolution 20-117-R, authorizing execution of task order number 22 with Engineering Enterprises for professional services, design engineering related to the lead service line replacement program. And I think Jeremy is on.
He is, I'm gonna take it.
Oh, you're gonna take it?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's also on in case there are any questions. So-
Okay. Thanks, Gary.
Sure. This is a program that actually didn't exist when the 2020 budget was crafted. So we're here tonight to basically ask for an expenditure that wasn't contemplated as part of the 2020 budget, and I'm gonna provide you the background as to why we feel it's a good expenditure. The Public Water Supply Loan Program, which is basically low-interest loans, in this case, is offering 100% principal forgiveness. So basically, low interest as in zero, as in free, for lead service line replacement program. Kind of the catch is you have to be shovel-ready. You have to do the study up front. We've already done a project plan, and this resolution before you tonight is to basically do the design engineering related to this program. That will then get you into the queue, and if you're successful, you're given basically 100% principal forgiveness for all costs, including what we're talking about tonight. As an aside, I know that the Village of Montgomery, before this program existed, they already had a program in place, and therefore when this program was initiated, they were actually put in the queue and got funding already for principal forgiveness. So they were already a little bit ahead of the game, not knowing this was coming down the pipe. So we are recommending to utilize EEI. If you recall, EEI has done a number of water system projects for us very successfully, and we've had a good working relationship with them. For this design engineering, it would be a fixed fee of $136,060. But only a maximum of $60,000 would be expended in 2020, with the remainder being invoiced and budgeted for in fiscal year 2021. And obviously, we would keep you up to date as to the status of the principal forgiveness loan program. The worst case scenario is that we would spend money and have this program ready to go, and we wouldn't be successful with this program, but we'd be ready to go to really do a program that we're going to have to do anyway. So lead services are not going away on their own, and so we're going to ultimately have to get rid of them and remove them. So with that, I will just make the recommendation to approve Resolution 20-117.
Gary, where do you find the $60,000 for 2020? Is it from other water projects that haven't happened this year?
Reserves.
Reserves, okay. And I see, looking through the memo, that it also shows that it's up to $4 million in a year.
Oh, that's the cap that they.
That's the cap?
That's the cap that you could capture, yes.
Right, and I was gonna say, I don't know how we do $4 million worth of lead services in town. We'd have every street torn up in town to be able to spend that kind of money. But, I mean, it's a great, ambitious project, and I hope that we get every penny we can out of it, because
that's the goal.
something that,
Yeah.
then we don't have to have ratepayers pick up that tab in the future by being able to do this.
Right, and with today's technology, the ideal situation is you dig at the water main and you directional bore all the way up to the person's house, and then you make a connection at their house, and open trenching across roadways and through yards, hopefully is a thing of the past, so.
Okay. It's not the same contractor as Metronet, though, right? I had to throw that in. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, if not, I'll make the motion that we recommend to council resolution 20-117-R.
Second, Meisler.
Oh, go ahead, Elliot.
Yeah. I said second, Meisler.
Okay. Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
O'Brien absent, Callahan,
Aye.
Meitzler,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer, Ewer, Saron, absent. McFadden,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosato,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Knopf,
Aye.
Chansit, absent, and Barron.
Aye.
Motion carried, 10-0.
Alderman Ewer may have had to leave the meeting.
Yeah, right.
All right. Okay, moving on then to item number 12, which is resolution 20-118-R, authorizing the water and sewer superintendent or his designee to execute temporary construction easement agreements with regards to the lead service line replacement program.
I can
So
jump
this is-
into this if you'd like.
Yeah, this is just basically the other half of that, I guess, to be able to have easements to do all the work.
These are the easements that we would have with the private property owners. Attorney Drendel has looked through this and worked. That's a good opportunity for me to say that all this work has been done by Jeremy. I think I've probably spent, less than a half an hour total probably on all of this, just having conversations with him and strategy, but all the heavy lifting and everything, all of this is Jeremy's work. So he should be commended for this. He worked hand in hand with Attorney Drendel to go through this easement agreement, and basically Kevin is comfortable with this notion of having a staff member sign these easements on behalf of the city, as long as we have official authorization from the council to do so. So that's what this resolution is.
I think that just leads to a much more efficient job, because there's probably lots and lots and lots of these little easement agreements that we're gonna have to be able to complete this.
Could be several hundred of them, and just trying to track down, although the mayor likes to sign things, if we can not have him sign several hundred of them, we may.
I'll just be happy that we get it done. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I will make the motion that we recommend to council resolution 20-118-R.
Second.
Motion by Wolf, second by Callahan. Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
O'Brien, absent. Callahan,
Aye.
Meitzler,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer, Saron, absent. McFadden,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosato,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Knopf,
Aye.
Chansit, absent, and Barron.
Aye.
Motion carried, 10-0.
Okay. And going back through the ones that I just presented here, I think the first one, the Prairie and Wilson Street intersection, should be regular agenda. We can talk about that because it is partial grant money. And then the rest of them could go on consent agenda, unless anybody wants to talk about it. Okay, next up is item number 13, which is a discussion on the Batavia Police Department body worn camera research project results. You want to start this off, Laura?
Actually, I would like to pass this to Chief Ewell.
Thank you, Laura. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
And we can see you.
Okay, so this is the culmination of several months' worth of work. As you're probably aware, in the late spring, early summer months, after the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota, numerous members of the public engaged the police department command staff regarding what measures we have in place to guarantee that we are practicing fair and impartial policing methods within the Batavia Police Department. One of the recurring themes through all those conversations we had, either in person, on the phone, or via electronic communications, was body-worn cameras. Numerous members of the public were curious about whether we had them, and if not, why we didn't, and what we could do to get that done. It seemed to be the key takeaway that they thought that to add a higher degree and level of transparency in the police operations within the city of Batavia, that we engage and deploy body-worn cameras in the police department. Now, to give you a little bit of history, the police department has had cameras on board our vehicles several times during the last 20 years. But the technology at the time was older, and our first iteration was VHS tapes in the trunk of the cars, which eventually over time broke down, and the companies were kind of fly by night at that time, so they were opening up their companies, and we used their vendor services for several years, and then they would go bankrupt, and we wouldn't be able to have the equipment replaced. So that would go defunct, and then several years later after that, I think we went to a DVR system that we had in the trunks of the cars. This equipment was all hardware owned and managed by the police department. The same thing kind of occurred with the DVR systems. Very difficult to maintain and upkeep, and oftentimes they would break down without even our knowledge. The technology has really advanced since then, and obviously they've gone from in-car cameras to cameras worn on the bodies of individual officers throughout the country. The command staff engaged in a research project over the course of the summer in July and early August, the culmination near the end of August, resulting in this report. We researched the 3 major vendors for body-worn camera systems throughout the country that we believe to be Axon International, which is more widely known for the TASER conducted energy weapon, which we currently deploy in the field with our officers. Panasonic Corporation, which is a widely recognized name in the electronics market. And then finally, GTAC Technologies, which we currently engage for the purchase of our onboard mobile data terminals in the vehicles. So after we assessed all those, the pros and cons of each one of these systems, and obviously the pricing, we determined that GTAC Technology had the best product that we thought would be most readily and available to be implemented, integrated into the police department operations, primarily due to the fact that we can integrate it with our current rugged tablets we have on board of all our police vehicles. Also, they just happen to be the lowest bidder when they gave us their cost estimate. Unbeknownst to us during that period of time, we also realized that the county sheriff's department was engaged in a similar type of research project, and they had also landed on GTAC Technologies. They had gone out, they were further along than we were in the process. I think they began theirs in February. So they had already engaged in an RFP process. We were able to get a hold of that information, reviewed it with the city attorney, and determined that we could piggyback off the countywide RFP for purchase through their vendor at their vendor prices. So that's essentially the nutshell version of our research project. So we came up with several alternatives for the possible implementation or funding of implementation of a body-worn camera program. The first one would be to not do it like we currently are, or maintain the status quo. Obviously, it'd be the cheapest alternative. But we also think there's an opportunity cost at this point. It's pretty obvious that I think body-worn cameras are at some point in the future, whether it be near or midterm future, are going to be mandatory equipment for law enforcement officers throughout the country. Now, the question is whether or not it's funded at some higher governmental level, whether it be the federal level, the state level. And to this point, to this date, nobody has come up with the funding. And as the mayor likes to say, the state is unreliable for funding as a funding resource at this point. So I believe there may be some legislation potentially coming forward later in this year or early next year. I don't believe there's going to be funding attached to it. So the first option, I think, is the least attractive option for the police department. The second one would be to fund it for the next fiscal year's budget, FY 2021, for the police department. And that would be okay. And then we could hold off and wait and see if the state, if they do mandate body-worn camera programs for law enforcement officers in the state of Illinois, that they come up with some kind of funding mechanism. Again, I'm not confident about that. And the third option that we came up with was to implement it immediately or in the near-term future based on funds we already currently have unexpended within the FY 2020 police department budget. And as I indicated in the memo, that's a result of funds that were not expended as a result really of the COVID pandemic, and there's some significant substantial changes to our operations and our consumption of the telecommunications services. So we're asking you, the committee of the whole to consider this and authorize us to engage. And I indicated in the memo an ordinance, but I think after consultation with Laura, we believe that the appropriate mechanism would be through a resolution to enter into a service agreement with GTAC Technology for a period of 5 years to lease their equipment. And there's a lot of information contained within the spreadsheet I have attached as an exhibit as well, that you can go over. And if you have any questions specific to any of the 3 vendors, you can look at that and I can hopefully answer any questions you might have. But we would like to enter a resolution, and we prefer to move forward sooner than later. So at that point, I will take any questions you may have.
Does anybody have questions? Joe?
I have a question. How soon would this be implemented from the time you ordered it? What kind of turnaround time do they have?
That is to be determined. I think right now, all the vendors for body worn camera systems are being crushed. So there's a run on body worn cameras throughout the country right now. So hopefully sooner than later, I'd like to have something done between now and the end of the first quarter of next year. But I can't guarantee that timeline.
Okay, thank you.
Chief?
Yes, sir.
How have the other departments that you've contacted liked the units that they have chosen? You know, I mean, I saw that several of the departments that you have listed in there, you know, did you have conversations with them about what they had or how long they have had them, and did they switch from something else, or is that the first and only system that they've used?
The agencies we really relied upon were the ones in our region, in Kane County or close to Kane County, in either near Cook or near McHenry County. Elgin and West Chicago both have Axon technology systems they're wearing on their officers' uniforms. Basically everybody was very happy with all 3 of the vendors and the technology they were providing. Woodstock was a police department. They're the longest GTAC provider or client in the area. Obviously, the county sheriff's department they're not there yet, but they've already selected them as their vendor. But Woodstock was extremely complimentary of the GTAC systems. As a matter of fact, anecdotally, they even shared with us that that since they implemented it, it already helped them solve a murder in their community based on some information that was captured, not recognized by the officer in the field, but upon review at a shooting, they were able to see the offender fleeing on the camera once they reviewed it. So it paid dividends for them almost immediately. But again, all 3 of the providers, anybody we talked to, had pretty high praise for their systems.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Actually, I have 2 of them. You know, even though that we're going to get this information, what additional, you know, with this cost with it, what additional cost are we looking at seeing with having these in-house? Because obviously there's going to be a need to, you know, as he said, review the data and everything. And, you know, is there any sort of estimate of what that would cost or add to?
Well, the information we've gotten from the agencies that have already implemented them is that some of them have utilized in-house employee staff to deal with the review and administration of the programs. Now, some of those agencies had more robust administrative staffs than we do, but our plan initially, because cost is obviously a major concern to us. Really, that's been the prohibitive step in us not implementing a body-worn camera system prior to now. So we're very cognizant of the cost impact on the city and the police department. So we'd be trying to handle that in-house initially. If that doesn't work, if that's not feasible, and we'd like to at least have 12 to 18 months to review that, it may require some additional staff. Some agencies have people on staff who just solely manage and administrate their body-worn camera programs.
Chief,
But as far as additional cost, this is basically that's the total hard cost of the program. Now, this is a lease which would be occurring for 5 years, and these figures are reflective of the whole 5 years in its entirety. It's not 139 or 178 per year. It's those numbers cut up into 5 chunks, which we would recommend we pay it once because we think we have the funds available in our budget. But that can be something we could also extrapolate over several years as well.
Chief, isn't it also true that we discovered while we were investigating these systems that in particular GTAC has developed in their software a lot of automation of the redacting that needs to be done with, for instance, a request is made for a copy. There's a lot of information in a body-worn camera video that needs to be redacted because it's personal information. And it used to be a very difficult task to go through and do that. Now that is, a lot of that is automated. Is that true, Chief?
That's true to an extent with all three of the providers. I think Axon and GTAC, from our perspective, were leaders in that area. Yes, and GTAC does have technology that will automatically redact faces. So if you key in one face, it'll through the entirety of the video stream that is captured, it will redact that it'll blur that facial figure. They're also working on, they say they're very close to technology that will do that on inanimate objects, such as license plates or things of that nature. So yes, that comes in as part of the package. The redaction software will be part of the package with all three of the providers. Additionally, while I'm on the topic, one of the things that really set GTAC apart for us, again, was the integration with our rugged tablets that are currently on board the vehicles so that we can instantly upload the information off of the camera onto the system using our tablets on a 12-inch screen, so it also can be monitored and tagged. But the most attractive option that none of the other providers indicated they had available to offer was a trigger zone activation for officers responding to assist an officer who has already activated their body-worn camera. So some kind of an officer needs assistance, a serious in-progress call. If the officers are rushing and they're so mission-focused, they forget to activate manually their body-worn cameras. Once they move inside of a geographically specific fence, which we would determine whether that's 20 or 25 feet from that officer who has their camera activated, it would automatically activate everybody's camera who came inside that geo fence. So that way you're capturing it all from a 360-degree perspective.
Interesting feature.
With all this, great technology and cloud-based, and obviously we've dealt with their software for a long time, their service to respond if we have any outages or challenges, they're up there, they're able to respond to any of those challenges.
Yeah, that is why they went to such an extent to contact other departments who are utilizing the technology so that they could understand how responsive each one of those different companies were to those issues.
Because you would hate.
And currently we do have a relationship with two of the three companies right now, that being Axon International and GTAC. Axon for our tasers and GTAC for our rugged tablets. And I will say that our experiences with both of these companies, that they're very responsive to our tech support needs.
And what kind of training will they provide once those are implemented for all the officers? And will there need to be some additional training with the software in-house?
So training is provided at a cost with each one of the companies, but they will come out on site. Let me see if I can find, there's pricing in here. So an on-site training session, they would do 2 sessions. So each of our officers can be trained on how to use the equipment. And that's another thing we found more attractive about GTAC than some of the others. That was, honestly, it was very simple. There was a simple button. It would talk to the officer, letting them know that when they press the button, it was activated. And when they press the button, it was inactive. And there are toggle switches on the body-worn camera system that will let you cycle through a number of different, preordained tagging features, because different types of activities will require different types of data retention. A traffic stop will be a different data retention requirement than a homicide arrest, those sorts of things. So there are certain functions you can key into it so that it will basically for ease of usage for the officer. But each one of the systems would come with operator training,
and
as well as a training for administrative back-end activities as well.
Right, and also opportunities for train the trainer, so that as we have new folks that come on board, we will have someone who is trained in being able to train others how to use the system.
One other interesting feature with both Axon and GTAC was that at the basically the 2.5 to 3 year mark, all of the hardware that we have that out in the field would be replaced at no additional cost to the agency. So we're leasing it, but we're getting the best equipment at all times.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? I think it's a necessary step that we have to take forward. You know, it's not only protecting us, it's protecting people that get stopped or that they interact with, I should say. And I think it's the reality of the service that they have to be part of.
It just becomes another part of their uniform.
Right, and it will truly be that, and I really like that, the one thing that the chief explained, that, you know, somebody else has that turned on, and as soon as you get within a predetermined, you know, range from them, yours goes on whether you turn it on or not.
Yep.
And that way you get as many views of whatever situation as you possibly can.
Mhm.
So,
I think this is a great, great addition to our already great police department. It protects our officers, it protects our citizens. This is just another step in showing transparency of our department and highlighting the great work that Chief Ewell and the officers do in the city of Batavia, and being able to take our police department and our training and our staff and tell other departments out there that this is a great base model that people should be building their departments on. It will help highlight that and showing that how departments should be run and can be run across the country.
Yeah, I think we want to be leaders in this regard. We know that this is the way things are going in the future, and it is the right thing to do for so many reasons. And if we are committed to doing it, why not now? Would be the question. And the why not now, as Chief Ewell pointed out, is that at some point in the future, perhaps this will be mandated through legislation, and that in parallel with that, perhaps there might be some funding at a federal or a state level for that, but it's nothing that you can count on. And it seems like the benefits of having it sooner outweigh the risks of maybe missing out on that additional funding that would help pay for it. So it's our recommendation to move forward with this now.
I just have one last question.
Sure.
I know that, you know, we're given 3 options, you know, to decide on the funding. I just want to make sure that, because I know one of the things that was put on hold was some training for the police department, and I want to make sure that we commit to the CIT training, because I think that's a very important tool for our department, and that this purchase doesn't stop that from happening. I think that training needs to, you know, as we are purchasing new things, that training also needs to go, you know, right inside.
Absolutely. I think the only reason why we are foregoing the CIT training right now is due to the COVID restrictions, but I'll let Chief Ewell speak to that a little bit more.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly correct. Yes, we have not discontinued CIT training other than for the reasons of the pandemic. For a period of time, there was no in-person training, so many of the classes were canceled. It was our hope to have all of our field workforce CIT certified prior to the end of this year. That's infeasible now due to the pandemic, but we are getting back on track with that. We have several of our supervisory officers who are now scheduled to attend the CIT training course between now and the end of the year and going forward into next year. So by the end of right now, we have 34 of our 41 officers, that includes the command staff, 34 of our officers are currently CIT trained. And we hope to have the rest of them, I would say, maybe this is aggressive, but by the end of the first quarter of next year, I hope to have all of our field workforce CIT certified. It is definitely a priority throughout the county. The state attorney's been assisting with some funding for that as well. And the MTUs, MTU 3 knows how important it is to everybody in the law enforcement community in Kane County. So this is not a this or that kind of a thing. We're definitely pursuing CIT training aggressively.
You, Laura, you mentioned risk and all of the good benefits that clearly are there. And the largest risk can't be quantified with money, which is everything related to trust and transparency. We're in a time where it is just mandatory to go ahead and be as proactive as possible. And you go back to even this meeting tonight, several years ago, they weren't televised. And the concern was, oh, you don't want to, the hand wringing on it. And it's like, there is nothing to be afraid of. And when the public has faith in our law enforcement and our leaders in the police department, the community is safer, not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically, going back to what Abby was even saying and Jenny was even saying about just a sense of place. You want to know that you belong. You want to know that there are no barriers to the right thing. And this is another tool that it just, like Keenan had said, it's a no-brainer on it. It's not even a question anymore. You just have to find the money. We wouldn't put officers out without a car. We wouldn't send firemen without a hose. It's a tool that they need for their safety and for the community.
Draft an ordinance.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And we'll sit here and wait so we can vote on it.
Yeah. You can have a couple weeks. Okay. Next up will be project status.
Sure, I just have a few things from Public Works, just to update you on some of our major projects. Prairie Street, if you've driven past there, it looks like a street.
It's wonderful. It's
smooth, it's beautiful. And so we're in the final punch list stage. All the major construction components have been completed. And considering how this project started in the stay-at-home stage of COVID, which prevented some of the utility work that needed to be done initially, got delayed, to be in a place where we were able to finish such a major project before the end of October is just really amazing. And I want to commend all of the public works staff that were affiliated with the project. We've also received letters from residents commending not only how the project has been completed, but the actual construction company that we used. They had very nice things to say about the fact of how hard they worked to get this project completed on time. And to our residents in Area 3 who for years, when we would have major flooding, would end up not only with water in their basement, but with sewage in their basement. We have, the underground work is substantially completed for the separation work that had to be completed to prevent that from happening. The roadway work is underway and anticipated to be completed by mid to late November. Truly appreciate the patience of all of the residents in that area. This was a huge, major project, disrupted their abilities to access their driveways for long periods of time. And we just really want to say thank you to them for their patience but this is really solving a huge issue for them in the future. And then Main Street is progressing westward on a block-by-block basis. The goal is to have all the roadway paved to the binder course prior to the onset of winter, and then the final surface course will be put in place in spring of 2021. Tomorrow, Allison Niamella, the Executive Director of Batavia Park District, and I will be meeting with Steve Conters from Hitchcock Design to talk about implementation of the Master River Plan, phase 1 of which is taking a look at removal of the dam and the preservation of the Depot Pond. So it's kind of a little bit of a kickoff meeting for that project. And then there was an article in today's Chicago Tribune, and it began with the story of our dam and the near miss that we recently had of the pontoon boat that ended up getting hung up there. And the focus of the article was on situations like that and those that ended much worse in fatalities of all of the dams, the low-head dams that exist in the state of Illinois and the state's efforts to remove those dams. So it was a great article to keep that subject matter in the focus of our residents and to share with them that there's been a lot of turnaround in people's minds about the low-head dams, that they are now, that people see that it increases the population and the diversity of the fish and wildlife that exist after the dams are removed. It allows the silt and sediment to move and not be locked up by those dams. So there really is, seems to be more positive public sentiment in regard to removal of the dams. We are also going to be moving into our brush pickup and our leaf pickup program for the year. Brush pickup, this week we were doing the east side. Next week we'll be doing the west side, and the next time that our crews will come through for brush pickup will be on November 30th for one last citywide collection. The leaf program begins next week on the east side, and on the west side on October 26th. The next round of leaf pickup is November 2nd on the east side and November 9th on the west side. And if weather permits, we have a third leaf pickup on November 16th, November 23rd, but that just depends upon if, we're able to pick them up. If they're under 3 feet of snow or stuck to the ground with ice, we're not able to do that. And I just wanted to also mention that the public hearing for TIF number 6 will be on November 2nd. That's the first city council meeting in November, and that's at 7:30 p.m. And lastly, another kind of public service announcement from our police department. Although the department has made numerous arrests this year for this type of offense, we are still seeing a high number of bicycle thefts, and it remains an ongoing problem in the community. It's a variety of different types of bicycles and the areas in which they're taken. Even some which are locked and secured are actually being kind of stolen in broad daylight. So the department encourages the public to secure their bicycles while they're unattended and also be observant of any suspicious activity that they see taking place near bike racks downtown. If you do observe suspicious activity, do not confront anyone, but call 911 and please report the issue to police. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Just along the lines of Main Street, I was at a resident's house that's right on Main Street tonight, and we were looking at the progress that's also there. And just to pass along that Chris Bong was specifically discussed, that he's just doing a great job
Thank you.
communicating with all the residents. They
Yes.
love the weekly updates that I know we get on it. And the lack of complaints is completely attributed to the work that's being done, because while it has been on Main Street very, very challenging with a lot of the work, the residents over there, that they know the benefits of it. It's going to be one of the nicest streets in town, and their sewers aren't going to back up into the houses anymore. So it's much appreciated, even though it's been challenging, but it's on the horizon, and Chris has done a great job.
Thank you very much for mentioning that. I'd call out that whole engineering department, Andrea Pedraza, who has been handling the Area 3 project, the same thing. She's even over the weekends immediately responsive to residents' concerns that are brought to her attention. And then also Tim Grimm, and he has been overseeing the Ward 1 project and the Prairie Street construction, and I've gotten so many nice compliments about just how well he communicates and tries to solve problems. There were several residents who had physical problems that and having Prairie Street disrupted for this long. And Tim would work with the contractor to just make sure that it was as least of an imposition as possible, and that they were able to get in and out of their driveways safely. So thank you very much for mentioning that.
I would like to jump on that conversation and just add a couple of other observations. Number one, over on Main Street and the whole southwest side of Batavia was a engineering nightmare for many years. I mean, as near as I can tell, and looking back in old council minutes, it probably goes back to about 1913, when the city council made the decision to put all the water in one pipe, that they were gonna dump all the sanitary sewer water and all the storm sewer water in the same pipe. And supposedly the pipe was gonna be big enough that we wouldn't have to worry about it, but as the town continued to grow down there, more and more water kept coming into the pipe. And for the last 40 years, we've had a lot of people very upset at heavy rains down there when all that water starts backing up because the pipe's full, and suddenly where's the water go but back up into the basement drains, and we've got all kinds of smells and contamination and everything. So hopefully we've taken care of that. Now, this did not come at an inexpensive proposition, but it was well worth it to get that whole area cleaned up. And jumping over to the east side, I just want to give Tim Grimm a pat on the back, because we had a situation down there where there was an engineering flaw done when we rebuilt Pine Street from Prairie down to Hart Road, because we created a curbing that was separated from the sidewalk which ran down, and it was filled, somehow or another it got filled with some dirt, and that became an instant weed patch. So we had this constant line of weeds from Prairie and Pine all the way down to Pine and Hart Road every year. And several citizens in the area went out and picked the weeds out of the cracks every year. So I took Tim down there one day during this whole construction, and he came up with the idea that there was a sealant that he could pour down into this crack, remove all the dirt first, and then put this sealant in. So I think we've ended the weed patch on Pine Street between Prairie Street and Hart Road, which was very unsightly. I was embarrassed by it when I would come in, and of course I lived nearby there, but every time I'd come by there, it looked like something I would see in some large city ghetto someplace. It was just totally un-Batavia. And so we now have that resolved too. So my pats on the back and my hat's off to all of our people in the Public Works Department. They've done a wondrous job here cleaning up some stuff that generations years ago created specifically on the west side, and we got that all taken care of. And that, coupled with the new water treatment plant, we're kind of a model, and I've got other mayors in the region asking me if they can stop by Batavia sometime, and I'm telling them, you're welcome, just call me and make an appointment, and we'll be happy to show you what's going on. I think Naperville may be over here relatively quick to look at what we've done, because we just had the mayor from Diamond, Illinois in here a while back to look at the sewer plant and how we had done it. So it's getting out in the world that we've done some modernistic things here that really have made Public Works something that we should all be very proud of.
Well, Tim gets 2 medals because he does do the east side stuff, but he's completely empathetic because he lives over next to the, so he goes from one to the other. Tim gets no relief, so for him to be as professional, as empathetic as he is, I know that's his character.
Okay, does anybody else have any others? If not, I'll look for a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Callahan, second by Knopp. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay, we're done.